Thank you for tuning into my channel. We're working on panels for our t-shirt quilt. So if you want to learn how to piece a block like this, please stay tuned. Right now I'm working on my t-shirt quilt. This is for one of my teacher friend's daughters who's going to be a senior in high school. And what I'm doing right now is just preparing the panels for the front and the back of the quilt. What they've asked is that the front of the jerseys be the front of the quilt, and then I'm going to put the back on the back of the quilt. What we're going to do is we're going to create some quilt as you go blocks and then put them together. For this particular video, a lot of the shirts that I've done have been big enough that I can get one large 15-inch square, but then there are some of them that are not quite wide enough, and so I have to piece them together. So this is the front of a jersey, and this block, it has two white sections on the side, and then the actual jersey is in the middle. And then this is the front, and I'm going to show you the back now. And here's the back of that same jersey. They are not quite wide enough to get a 15-inch square. So I'm going to show you what to do to make your panels a little bit bigger. The materials that you're going to need are your shirt fronts or backs. This is actually the back of a shirt that I'm going to be using. This was the front of it, and I was able to get 15 inches from the front, but I think when I cut it, something weird happened when I cut it. You can see here that it kind of turns in, so I'm going to have to do a partial panel. You're also going to need some interfacing. This one is just enough for this part of the quilt or the panel, but you will need enough to do both sides. I'll help you figure that out in just a minute. Also, to create the additional portions of the panel, these are actually leftover pieces from the jerseys that I already cut. So I'm using, today I'm going to use a little bit of red, and all I'm going to do is just put the interfacing down on it now. You'll also need a ruler. For me, I'm using this 15-inch square ruler. It happens to be, it's upside down, it happens to be the size of my block, so it's gonna, it'll be easier to cut when it's all done. My first step is going to be to decide how much of the panel that you can get. And so all I do for each one of these is, if I know it's not going to be big enough, right now if I hold my ruler down, you can see that there's some bits of the ruler that are hanging out on the edge, and so I know that won't work. So what I'm just doing is moving it over so that I can get as much of the panel or much of the pattern inside this area of the ruler. And I can see that I can get an 11-inch by full length of the block. So I'm going to make my panel is going to be 11 by 15. Let me see. Actually, it's going to be 12 by 15. Okay, and what I do first is I cut the interfacing. This is a fusible interfacing. I don't know if you can see that it's glossy on one side or shiny on one side, but my panel that I've already made, it's 12 by 15, 12 inches by 15 inches, and I'm going to press this. I'm going to press it on the wrong side of my panel first before I do any more steps. So I'll do that, and I will show you what that looks like. I've pressed the interfacing onto the back of our panel here, or our t-shirt. Now what I'm going to do is take my rotary cutter and cut around the edges of it to make it a nice even panel. I'm using my ruler here, and I'm giving, since it's a 12-inch panel, I'm just making sure that it's covered in the 12 inches. When I use the interfacing, it might shrink up a little bit, but that's not important. because it's gonna, as long as the 1/4 inch is covered by the interfacing, then it's fine. And I'm just gonna go around all 4 sides here. Okay. And I'm just trying to make sure that I keep my rotary cutter right up next to the ruler, so to keep the cut straight. From this point, I'm going to also take my side panels, or the pieces that are going to be on the side of my panel, and I usually try to cut pieces that are a little bit bigger, so I want my finished square to be like 13 inches or 14 inches, so that no, that's not right. Like 16 inches or 17 inches, so that when I cut it down, it'll be at the 15-inch mark. These 2 pieces are left over, so they already have the interfacing on the back. And we are going to go to the sewing machine, and I'm going to add these on. I'm going to do a rough estimate now. I think I'll still get my 15 inches out of here. I should with the 1/4 inch, but I wanted to just get a rough measurement. At this point, we can go to the sewing machine and start stitching these edges on. So since we're at the sewing machine now, I've made a few small adjustments to what I normally sew with. I've added my sew straight ruler here to help line up my 1/4 inch line. And I've also put my walking foot on my machine. You can see it here, to help feed the fabric through. I tried it with my 1/4 inch foot, but it did not work as well as I would like. The walking foot helps to pull both the top and the bottom seam or fabric through at the same time to make it a little bit easier. So at this point, I'm just going to take my my side panel fabric and put it right sides together with my t-shirt, and the interfacing helps it to be a little bit more stiff, so that's what's cool about it, is that it's a little more stiff. And I'm just going to go ahead and stitch it together. And I'm chain piecing, so there's actually another piece in with this that I'm pulling to help it go through. It's really not hard to do it this way. It's just it just takes time, but I'm just lining, keeping the fabric in line with my sew straight ruler with that 1/4 inch line. If your walking foot has a 1/4 inch the measurement, then that's awesome. Mine does not. That's why I'm using the sew straight ruler. Okay, so I'm going to get this step done, and then we'll go to the ironing board and press it out. I have my iron ready. It's on a steam setting, and right now I'm going to press this block so that hopefully it can get as flat as it can get. What I'm going to do is just hold the seam allowance open and then press gently here on the back side, and I'm kind of holding it open with my fingers. The interfacing lets it be really stiff, but the fabric itself is it's not really as giving as I would like. It won't lay flat like I want it to, but I'm just going and giving the back a nice press. Then I'm going to go onto the front and use my press cloth to make it flatter. So that way, by using my press cloth, I can give it a little bit more oomph, and it'll lay flatter. So all I'm doing is just pressing. Well, not pressing, I'm actually kind of ironing this down. I kind of have my finger over where the seam line is, because I want to make sure that I go over the seam line several times. Alright, and you can see that it's much flatter than it was. This particular piece also has the piping, and so that makes it a little bit more difficult to press, but it's still okay. So here's the back, and it's much flatter, and then the front. I'm going to do the other side, and then we'll go back to the cutting table. I had our panel ready. The only thing that needs to be done now is that the side panels need to be cut down so that the entire block is 15 inches. So I'm going to just lay my ruler on here. I'm not going to worry too much about the top and bottom, even if they're not exact. I think it'll be okay. And then I'm just going to cut. I'm actually going to flip it over because this side is shorter. Okay. And then, and I just have to give this one little cut on this side. Okay. And here is our completed panel. And what is interesting about these panels is that you can use bits and pieces from all of the blocks to, I want to give you some different ideas of ways to use the jerseys to create some interest in your blocks. This way, of course, I just used the bottoms of the jersey that was left over and added it to another block. This block happened to have some piping on it, and I think that's cool. It's just a nice way to add a little bit of interest. Another thing that you can do is, if you look at your basketball jerseys, some of them may have a little color here on the sides that you can cut, that you can kind of mindfully cut when you're making your panel. If you like cut just the inside or something like that, and then you can use that to border out your panel. And here is an example of that. I just took this was actually on the side, so it would be under the shoulder, and I put it on either side of the panel. It's really cool. I have another one that we did like that. We have blue and we have red that's also bordered that same way. Another thing that you can do is look for some interesting patterns in your jersey, in your jerseys. This is actually the sleeve of one of my panels, and it's kind of that military camouflage or something like that. And so I can use this on one of my side panels. So as I keep going, I only have a few more to do, but I'm going to try to remember to use this on the side of one of mine. This is another example here. This pattern was on one of the jerseys, and so we have an entire jersey that has this pattern on it, but I also put it on the side of this jersey to fill it out and add a little bit of interest. Those are all different ways to make your jersey panels more interesting, especially if you have to fill them out, if you have to add some more to make it the right size. If you have any questions about this technique, please leave them in the comments below. Thumbs up this video, share it with your friends. Please don't forget to visit the Purple Quilt Facebook group and my blog, equiltsblog.wordpress.com. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!